This is a skillet, a fantastically versatile piece of cookware in which you can prepare a lot of different meals. And this is a portable electric burner, a wonderful tool in its own right that lets you heat cookware anywhere there's power. Oftentimes I use this very skillet on this burner, which of course means hauling out two pieces of equipment. But what if you could combine those two culinary tools into one device? Well, then you would get this, the electric skillet. This marvel essentially combines a skillet and an electric burner into one unit. Today we're going to dive into the world of electric skillets, including this vintage one, to find out whether you should be cooking with one in your kitchen. Hello and welcome to I Want to Cook. My name is Chef Matt and this channel is all about helping you be a better cook. And well, of course you could be a better cook with one of these. This is an electric skillet. Have you ever seen one of these things before? Well, maybe you are an old hat at this, or maybe this is new, but today we are diving into the wonder that is the electric skillet. Now, as I said in that intro, an electric skillet is basically a skillet and an electric burner combined into one unit. And you can set a temperature just like you would on your stove or on your range, and it will keep that temperature once you've set it. Now the unit I have here is a Farberware. I'm guessing this is from the 1960s. I thrifted this recently, and as you can see, it has a lid that comes off, and this is a 12-inch skillet here. But the way it works is you have this removable power cord right here, and what you do is you insert it right here into the unit, you set your temperature, and then you can get to cooking. Now as you can see, it is totally self-contained. Right here you have these legs on the bottom that let you stand it up. This is where the power cord goes in, and what's great about these is once you remove these power cords, well, you can wash this whole thing. You just take this power cord out and then you can wash it just like you would a normal skillet. It's super convenient that way. Now in this model, the temperature gauge is built right here into the power unit, and this will also turn it off and on. So what you do is from the off setting, you would turn it on and then you can select the temperature. In this model, it goes all the way up to, well, probably about 425 degrees. That's pretty hot and will allow you to cook a lot of different things, or you can lower the temperature and, well, you know, keep things warm or even boil something. As you can see, these are written right in here to help guide you. That's not the only writing on this unit. As you can see in this handle, there's also a guide as far as what to cook with each temperature. And boy, some of these really reflect what you might be cooking at the time. I mean, look at this. We've even got rabbit and liver. Hey, who wants some liver? Now these are also known as electric frying pans, but that's something of a misnomer because you can do a lot more than just fry in one of these. You can saute, you can braise, you can sear. Basically, you can do in one of these anything that you could do in a normal skillet. Well, almost anything. There are a couple of things you can't do, and I'll get to those in just a moment. Now, as you can see, this electric skillet is round, but you can also find them in a square shape, including many of the newer ones that are on store shelves today. But these things are hardly new. Sunbeam is credited with creating the first automatic electric skillet back in 1953. And according to Time magazine, When they came out, they cost $24.95. That's a pretty hefty sum because in today's dollars, that's about $300. I'm guessing this Farberware model is from the 1960s or maybe the 1970s, and for the record, I paid $20 for it in modern money at the thrift store. Now, back when electric skillets came out all those decades ago, they were quite popular and a lot of different manufacturers made them. You know, for all the talk about the modern one-pot meal, well, this thing is kind of the OG. Now, modern versions of these are still being made, but in my opinion, they do have one big drawback, and that has to do with, yes, material. Now, like other skillets of the time, when these came out, the interiors were either aluminum or stainless steel, which is really good material for cookware. In fact, I made a whole video on aluminum versus stainless steel pans and the pros and cons of each. I'll put a link to that video in the description below. As you can see, the interior of this one is stainless steel, which is my preference because it won't react with acidic foods, it's easy to clean, and well, there's a lot of other benefits as well. In that regard, this Farberware electric skillet is just like its standard cousin here, this normal skillet, in that it has a stainless steel interior. I should also note that both of these were made in America, New York specifically, I believe, and well, not only do they both clean up beautifully to this day, but well, they still work great. But starting in the 1970s, interiors began to be made of non-stick material. And if you're shopping for an electric skillet today, that's pretty much the norm. Now, non-stick cookware does have its place. Sometimes I might cook eggs in a non-stick pan, but honestly, well, I can cook scrambled eggs in this thing just fine with no sticking. But my real issue with non-stick cookware is that it just doesn't seem to last. You might get a few good years out of it, even if you're very careful, but eventually that coating starts to scratch and peel. And they can't take the beating of something like this using metal utensils on the surface. Now, there are still some new stainless steel electric skillets being made, but they generally cost a little bit more than the non-stick ones. I did a quick search and I found one by a company called Cucina Pro, and theirs looks pretty good, although I haven't tried it. And I know that there are still some American-made ones being made by, I think, Salad Master. Those are more like direct sales ones, but in general, I think you're going to pay more for something like that than a non-stick one. Probably over $100, but I believe that's worth it. Or, well, you could just buy one second hand like I did. You can find these things all over eBay and, well, even at thrift stores. And there's a lot of reasons why you might want to have one of these in your house. And, well, the first of all is, well, it's two things in one. If you need to buy an electric burner and a skillet, well, that's two different things to buy, it's two different things to haul out. With this, well, it's all built into one unit, and that is so convenient. You just plug it in and go. Of course, buying one of these things can also be cheaper than buying two separate things, that separate electric burner and then a skillet, especially if you buy one of these secondhand. Again, I purchased this for $20, which I think is a really good price. Another thing I like about electric skillets is that they heat fast. Because that heating unit is directly in the bottom, it heats up really, really fast. In fact, I found it to be quite a bit faster than when I put a standard skillet on my electric burner. You just plug this thing in, turn the dial, and boom, you have heat. Another huge benefit of one of these is, well, they are just so portable. Basically, if you have access to power, you can be cooking. So that means you can use them outside of the home. If you're doing the van life thing or living on a boat or camping or what have you. If you have somewhere to put a power cord, well, you can cook. That also makes these ideal for places that might not have a real kitchen, whether that's like a dorm room or just like a kitchenette in a little house or even like an ADU. This could be the perfect solution if you don't have a stove. Now personally, I do a lot of my cooking outside, and one of these is ideal for that as well. So whether I'm frying up some chicken or cooking liver for the dogs, I can just plug this thing in outside, go to town, and all that smell is away from the house and not indoors. But even inside, these things certainly have a place. So maybe it's the holidays and you're using all the burners on your range. Well, this can definitely supplement that. And what's great about this thing is that, well, you can bring the whole thing to the table, you can set it down, plug it in, and it'll keep your food warm while you are serving at the table. And that's a really neat feature. And finally, these things clean up really easily. Like I say, you just unplug the power module, you bring it over to the sink, and you clean it up. And that's going to be the case no matter if it's a stainless steel interior one or one of the newer models with a non-stick interior. In fact, I think some of these might even be dishwasher safe, although for me, I basically hand wash everything. Now, of course, no cookware is perfect, and that includes electric skillets such as this. So there are a couple downsides to keep in mind. And the first thing is, they are a little bit heavy. I mean, because it is two components in one, it's going to be heavier than just your standard skillet. And I think one of the biggest, perhaps, downsides of one of these is, well, it's not really oven or broiler safe. So, like a regular skillet, you can saute something and then put it in the oven or put it in the broiler to finish. Well, that's not happening with one of these. Another thing to note is that sauteing can be a little more difficult with one of these. Because they are heavier, because they are a little more cumbersome, it can be harder to shake those vegetables. So if you do a lot of stir fry dishes where you really have to move that pan around, this might not be the ideal cookware for that. And finally, your selection of electric skillets is going to be nowhere near standard skillets. You're not going to get all the different sizes, all the different materials, all the different manufacturers. You're just going to get a few, and that's going to kind of be it. So is one of these things still relevant today, and could you use one in your kitchen? Well, like that electric roaster we talked about a few weeks ago, yes, these things still do have their place, especially if it meets your needs and circumstances. I think an electric skillet is great, especially if you do a lot of outdoor cooking or you need a supplemental stove. If you use up all the burners on your stove a lot and you need something else, this could be the perfect solution. Or if you do a lot of tableside serving, well, this is just a perfect application for that. And I think there's just going to be a lot of different uses that even I'm going to find now that I've purchased this thing. So yeah, these things definitely still do have their place. I would encourage you to look around, check them out, and maybe consider a vintage model or look for a new stainless steel one, because I think it's going to last a long time. Again, this thing's probably 60 years old and still going strong. But I don't know, do you have one of these things? Do you have memories of one of these things? I would love to hear your thoughts, your comments, what you cooked in them, and well, what are the pros and cons that you've discovered with an electric skillet? Okay, before we get to trivia time, I wanted to show you one other thing I found at the thrift store recently. It is so cool. It is a BlendTec blender. I bought this thing for, well, I bought it for $35, and I've been curious about these because I actually did purchase a Vitamix a couple years ago and I really enjoy using it, but I'd heard about these BlendTecs, and well, for $35, I couldn't pass it up. And this thing is really cool. It's got all these different modes, and well, you can make just about everything in it. I've been using it, of course, to make smoothies and stuff like that. But a really cool device, and again, another workhorse that I'll be using quite a bit, no doubt. If you want to, I don't know, hear more about this thing, or maybe want me to do a video on this at some point, let me know. Okay, trivia time. You know, just when I think I'm gonna stump you guys, well, I can't. Last week I asked you what this thing was. I didn't think anybody would know it, but well, y'all did. This is a slot dog, apparently, and yes, I bought this at the Goodwill. It was $4, and it was just so zany I couldn't pass it up. But what this thing does is, well, you press your hot dogs in it before cooking, and well, once cooked, they get this kind of, I don't know, honeycomb pattern. It lets you drizzle things in and exposes more surface area. And well, this is the slot dog. So congratulations to everybody who correctly identified it. For this week's culinary tool trivia, I have two Pyrex pitchers here. Which is older? This one, number 1 here in red, or this guy, number 2 with the blue? If you know which one of these is older, and perhaps why, put your guess in the comments below, and I will of course let you know the correct answer in the next episode. As always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Until next time, I hope you want to cook.